Well, I woke up this morning from a reoccurring dream.
All right, finally. Thank you guys for coming back for part 3 of our reaction to Pushpa. I am Jaby KOAY. You'll see SYNTELL's face next to me in a hot second. If you guys haven't already, please hit that subscribe button, bell icon, all notifications, and pretty please vote this up to let YouTube know you're enjoying what you're watching. Just as a reminder, you will see a cut down version because it's part 1, part 2, part 3. Make sure you watch the other parts if you haven't seen part 1 and 2 yet. Anyway, you're seeing a cut down version of our reaction because we're only allowed to show you a limited amount of picture-in-picture. If you want to watch the whole thing with us, uncut, uninterrupted, make sure to go to our Patreon page, patreon.com/JabyKOAY, where you can watch the whole movie with us, but you will need your own, is it Amazon Prime? I think it's Amazon Prime. You'll need your own Amazon Prime subscription so you can open up the movie in an adjacent window to our reaction, and it's like you're watching it with 2 of your favorite pals from the internet. All right, here you go. The walls thin. The walls are thin.
You ain't lying. Digging a hole for you. Oh, that sucks.
He's telling him where it's at.
It's the money. So it's like you over here talking all that trash like it's about your brother. Ain't about your brother? Oh!
Oh, the dude came.
Oh, his people came. Oh!
What? Oh, yeah. Wait, hold up.
Yeah, it's the other group.
The other group, yeah.
I didn't see that coming.
All out civil war. I mean, that was the only logical thing that would save him.
Yeah, he was good as dead.
He's in a tough spot.
Yes, he is. Snakes are out.
Yeah, that had to happen. At some point, you're running blind.
Yeah, man's like Daredevil. Whoa, goodness.
Oh.
Oh.
Ow.
Damn, you saw the ripples in his eyes? Ugh.
He's like a snake. Whoa.
Nice. Nice. And he dropped that machete too.
Oh shit. Damn, look at that confidence.
Oh.
Oh, nice. I don't even know how that works, but that looks cool.
Yeah. It looks cool. You were my partner.
Now you're acting like a bitch. After all that.
Yeah, I mean, it's like you already came to kill me, so what's that threat mean?
బావతో మాట్లాడు.
యో మూగులేసా
నా సీనన్నా.
పుష్ప యో పుష్ప నేను చెప్పేది నా
He's gonna tell him he already killed him, right?
వ్యాపారం చేద్దామా నువ్వు చెప్పిన రేటుకి అప్ప మిగతా విషయాల్లో తర్వాత మాట్లాడుకుందాం అప్ప నా బామ్మద్దు కానీ
Tell him he already killed him.
అరే
Oh, I knew it! I knew it! He backs up.
పోతే మళ్ళా రాదా?
Oh.
నేనేడ బిజినెస్ లో ఏలెట్టి కెలకడానికి రాలే, ఏలేయడానికి వచ్చిన కేదలే.
Staring up at the sky blue.
He handled that shit.
He sure did. It all worked out for him. He got rid of rid of a big problem too. You know, that brother wasn't gonna stand for it. And the other brother laid up. Yo, he beat that dude ass and was like, if you a man, you ain't gonna say nothing. He was like, I ain't gonna say nothing.
అన్నదమ్ముల లెక్క ఉంటుంటాం కదా ఏంది ఇదంతా అది వాళ్ళని అడగాల నా బావుమది నీడు చంపేటప్పుడు నేను ఫోన్ చేసిన అన్న అయినా చంపేసిండేడు నువ్వు కూడా నా మాదిరి 5 నిమిషాలు లేట్ చేసి ఉంటాలబ్బా
మీరు పోలీసు వాళ్ళకి దుడ్డు ఇస్తుండారా, మేము పోలీసు వాళ్ళకి దుడ్డు ఇస్తుండావా? మీరందరూ కమిషన్లు ఇస్తుండ్రా, ఆ పైన కూడా మేము కమిషన్లు వేస్తా ఉండావా? ఫారెస్ట్ వాళ్ళకి, రెవెన్యూ వాళ్ళకి, ఐడి వాళ్ళకి, పోలీసు వాళ్ళకి, చెక్ పోస్ట్ వాళ్ళకి, ఎవడు పడితే ఆడికి ఇచ్చుకుంటూ పోతా ఉంటాయి.
Yo, everybody pays. I'm not using that as an excuse.
డిమాండ్ మనం చేయాలా? మార్కెట్లో వాళ్ళకి పోటీ పెడితే ఎగపడి కొంటారు మన సరుకులు. ఆ లెక్కను చూస్తే ఏంది, మన ఎంపీ గారిదే ఎంత కాదని 20 కోట్లు వస్తుంది కమిషన్.
పుష్ప ఇట్రా కూర్చుని ఎంపీ గారికి మొత్తం చెప్పు.
Look at all the respect he's showing now. This is great. He gave up his seat.
పనితనం ఏందో కంటి ముందు కనిపిస్తుందా? ఇప్పటి నుంచి సిటీ గేట్ మొత్తం పుష్పానే చూసుకుంటాడు.
Damn.
సరే పుష్పకే అమ్మాలా.
And just like that, you're out, homie.
రేపే కాణిపాకలో ప్రమాణం.
My man said, I believed in it from the beginning.
మా బామ్మది కానీ బాడీ ఇస్తే ఇంటికి పోతా.
నువ్వు వచ్చిన కాడ నుంచి ఓని బాడీ మీద కూర్చొని ఉన్నావు గానా?
Whoa. Oh, shit.
I like that. Whatever that is, that imagery is, I don't know what it is, but it looked cool.
ఒక్కడొచ్చినాడు.
Really? Okay. Yo, the story is like we're about to give you more.
Well, it's the end of part 1, right? So.
Yeah. Who is this?
That's the cop. Oh! Oh, he finally made an appearance in the movie. Shit.
బన్వర్ సింగ్ షెకావత్ ఈయన గురించి చెప్పేదేం లేదు.
I forgot that he was in this.
New sheriff in town, huh? Okay. He over there smoking his dope.
శీలావతి.
మల్లేష్ సార్.
Whoa. So you're that kind of cop, smoking dope and shooting criminals.
He just needed to clear that
Wow.
seat space. That's all that was about.
Wow. Huh.
నీ పేరేమి?
He ain't there no more.
కొత్త ఎస్పీ వచ్చిన్నాడు కలిసేదానికి పోతాండా వచ్చేదాల్లో నేను ఒకసారి కలుస్తా చాలా పనుండే
నా మనసు ఏదో కీడు శంకిస్తా ఉండాది
నువ్వు చెప్పమ్మే
నా జీవితంలో జరిగే మొదటి శుభకార్యంలో నాయన ఇది డేయ్ పుష్ప
Listen to your mama, man.
దానికి నా పిల్లి పెట్టుకున్నా కూర్చుకొని రావాలనా ఏంటే
ఇది నెల కమిషన్ ₹1,00,00,000.
Oh, the disrespect.
ఒకటి తక్కువైంది.
లెక్క కరెక్ట్ గానే ఉండదు సార్.
ఒకటి తక్కువైంది. కుప్రాజ్ గారు కఫ్స్ వేయండి. అంటే నీ పెళ్లి ఎప్పుడు అవుతుంది?
Damn. Get married when I tell you you get married.
పుష్ప ఇప్పటి వరకు లెక్క తప్పిందల్లా మీకేం తక్కువ ఉండదో చెప్పండి సార్.
ఒకటి తక్కువైంది అని చెప్తున్నా కదా సార్. నువ్వు పెళ్లికి రావాలి కాదు సార్, పెళ్లికి రావాలి.
I love a good villain. Yes, more of this.
కఫ్స్ తీసేయండి, లెక్క సరిపోయింది.
That was an awesome scene.
సార్ ఎంత తీసుకోవాలి, నీకు ఎంత ఇవ్వాలి అన్నది సార్ డిసైడ్ చేస్తాను.
Yo, you needed that humbling though, man. You did.
Yeah. His ego was getting high.
Yeah. Here, take this bone.
బట్టలు కొనుక్కో, బ్రాండెడ్.
Yes.
సార్ ఏది చెప్తే అది చేసేటోడు పుష్ప. తూచ తప్పకుండా ఫాలో అయ్యేవాడు. పుష్ప ఎప్పుడు ఎవరి దగ్గర తల వంచిందేలే. ముహూర్తానికి ఇంకొంచెంసేపు ఉందనంగా ఐదుగురు పెళ్లి కొడుకుని పిల్లమన్నాడు. పుష్పలే మోటార్ బండిలే.
Oh shit. Oh, because he called him?
యాడ్రా పుష్ప యాడికి పోయినాడు? ముహూర్తానికి టైం అవుతాండది.
కలవలేదమ్మా, మళ్ళీ చేస్తాడా?
మళ్ళీ చెయ్.
You think he's gonna kill him?
I don't know. I have no idea.
నేను నీ అమ్మని ఏమన్నాను పుష్ప?
అందుకే తెలుసు కూడా మీరు ఎవడు మ్యానుఫ్యాక్చరింగ్ చేసి ఉండాడో, ఎవడు పుట్టించాడో, స్టాంప్ అది ఇది అని అన్ని.
It was savage. It was.
నా ఒంట్లో పారే మా నాయన రక్తం. మా అన్నోళ్ళు నా కాడ నుంచి ఇంటి పేరు లాక్కోక ముందే ఇది అయితే మా అమ్మ బాధపడద్దనే ఈ గంట వరకు ఆగి ఉండా. ఇక ఆగేదేలే.
That's. He done rubbed the beard. It's about to be a wrap.
గొడ్డలు ఓడదీస్తా, తీరస్తా. నేను రోడ్డు మీదకి ఎట్ట పోయినా నన్ను పుష్పగాడని అంటారో. నువ్వు పోయేట్టాగా రోడ్డు మీదకి పోలీస్ డ్రెస్ లేకుండానే నీ కుక్క కూడా నేను గుర్తుపట్టదు.
Interesting.
బ్రాండ్ అనేదే బట్టల్లో ఉండేది కాదు, బత్తకడలో ఉంటది. పోయే లోడు పోతానే ఉంటది, వచ్చే దుడ్డు వస్తానే ఉంటది, కానీ నీకు అది రూపాయి ఉండదు. ఒంటి మీద యూనిఫామ్ ఉంటది కానీ చేసేదానికి పని ఉండదు. నీ కాడ సార్ మాత్రమే ఉంటది.
You will only have sir.
He shows up to his wedding in his underwear. That's confidence.
ఒకడు పుష్ప అంటే ఫ్లవర్ అనుకున్నాడు. ఫైర్ అని చూపించి
ఇప్పుడంతా అయిపోయింది కదా.
It's just
Oh
beginning.
no, it's not over. Yeah, not by a long shot. Yes, it is.
ఎప్పుడైనా రానే తగ్గేదేలే.
Second interval. Nice.
Yeah. That was a hell of a way to end it.
Yeah.
I wasn't expecting that ending. It was a good setup. And that track go hard too.
Yeah, I just shut
I
it
don't know
up.
what they're saying.
I was glad they didn't kill him off.
jamming out.
That was a relief for me because that would have pissed me off if they, in the last 30 minutes, they set up this badass dude just to knock him out of the story.
Yeah.
I'm like, I know y'all got a sequel coming, so they would be really wasted if you killed him now. It was strange to me that, my question is, why wouldn't Pushpa kill him when there's, no one else there?
For all the gangster things that Pushpa does, there's a moral ceiling for him, the things that he will and will not do. He doesn't strike me, and we haven't seen that he doesn't just kill for the spite of it. You have to really, really wrong him. And I think he might have considered it because the thing that really gets him is the thing that everybody's played on him since he was born. That's his name. I think it was listen, I'm coming to you man to man, mano a mano. I'm gonna strip down that whole thing was we'll strip down to bare essentials where nothing matters, not this money that I've made, not your badge, not nothing, just mano a mano, man to man. And I think it was more or less a warning.
Yeah.
If you want it, I'm built for this because I started like this.
Yeah.
You're not. This is not your wheelhouse.
Yeah.
And I think Pushpa needed that because he got all glitzy and glammy and he thought he was living the life, and he was. I think he kind of forgot who he was because if you notice, well, at least I noticed it a little bit, that whatever that thing is that he's carrying on his shoulder, I think it's a chip on his shoulder per se, that thing, because he's always kind of walking like this. He kind of lost it at towards the end of it. He was kind of standing straight a little bit. And if you notice, after he got done talking to that dude, he brought it back. It's almost like a thing that defines who he really is. So I think might have been kind of thanking him in a sense too. Man, I kind of forgot who I was for a moment, and you reminded me.
Yeah, that's like the Bane quote. You think darkness is your ally, you merely adapted the dark. I was born in it.
Raised in it.
Yeah. I completely forgot that Fahadh Faasil was in this movie. He's a dope actor, and this is the first time you're seeing him. I'm aware of that. When I saw him on the credits, I forgot he was in the film. I was really excited when I saw him in the IMDb page. I was like, oh, cool. But then we got 2.5 hours into the film, I completely forgot about the IMDb page and that he's in this film. And so when he showed up, I was juiced. I was excited. I'm like, all right, what's he gonna do? And they established him as this, good adversary for Pushpa because he is wicked. He couldn't quite get his seat right, so he's just off the dude so he'd have room so he could go to sleep. That's cold.
Yeah, it was. I love how he took his time with it too, because I was really wondering, what's going on?
Yeah.
He's just I really can't get this seat. Wow, he's still smoking the joint, mind you. Yo, that was a really good setup.
Yeah.
That was a very good setup. My man, he was he thought he was gonna hand him the cane. He was like, nah, give me the green. He even complimented on it. It's this is really good.
Yeah.
Get in the paddy wagon, homie.
Yeah.
Yo, I love that. Was a very, very good intro. I love the braggadociousness of just the film in general.
Right. This is an interesting film to follow up. Allu Vaikanthu Puramalu. You and I literally just watched it. It was last week when we watched it, right? One of the things that I had complained about in that video was that I never got a sense of danger. Interestingly, here, even though Allu Arjun spends a lot of the movie completely in dope-ass gangster mode, just cool, there was still a sense of danger to it, and I'm not sure how they managed to accomplish that here in a way that wasn't present in the other film we watched of him. And I think it has to do with giving him vulnerability through his lady. And then I know why they did it the way they did it, but I almost wish that Fahadh Faasil was the latter half of the movie as opposed to a setup to the second film, if that makes any sense. Because he was actually a threat to Pushpa, that whole scene that you said you liked that scene when they were in the police station, and he was one is missing, and it's Sir. It's it made me just wish that the latter half of the film was that and him dealing with this dude. Because up until that point, no one really scared Pushpa. The only person Pushpa seemed to be concerned about and afraid of was his lady. The entire movie.
Yeah. It was one of the few moments where you got a chance to see him take off the mask of I'm a gangster, and he have real heartfelt moments. They did a really good job of establishing the fact that he is a human being that we can connect to through his best friend, and them having just that banter of going back and forth of, is she looking at me? It was a lot of fun. I thought it was necessary because it really humanized Pushpa. Like, I could actually see me and you having that kind of a conversation just in jest, you know, just going back and forth, like, is she looking? I don't know, this, that, and the third. It just really humanized him. So then when the superhero stuff came back in, I was like, all right, that's fine. I can live with that.
Right. Well, like I said, it was his vulnerability. That was his one area of weakness, which is interesting. I'm surprised that nothing came up in the film where it was leveraged against him. Really, like not on purpose anyway. Because when she was supposed to go, you know, sleep with that brother, it wasn't like it was a threat at him, even though it was a weakness of his.
Yeah, it did mess with his pride.
Yeah.
It did mess with his ego a little bit.
So we have a lot of balls in the air still, as it were. A lot of things that are being juggled. There's people left alive that don't like Pushpa.
Yeah.
And so that gives you a lot of story to play with for the follow-up film. I'm wondering if it's just one more movie or if this is a series.
Wow. Series as in like a trilogy is
Yeah,
that's what you mean, series
yeah,
and
like a
trilogy.
trilogy. Yeah,
Okay.
I have no idea where this is gonna go. We never came back to that thing we started with, which is the violin in Japan. Maybe the part of the point of that is to illustrate like why this wood is so valuable, you know, or how it's used. I mean, you know, famously, Yo-Yo Ma, his violin cost $1 million at the time, and that was back in the day. Like when I think he became, well, he was already famous by the time this film came out, but I remember he did music on Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon. And so, and it was around that time, which is like, what, 15, 18 years ago? I can't remember what Crouching Tiger was, you know, that I learned about his violin that cost $1 million. That's $1 million back then. And so it's worth even more today. I don't understand why they introduced us to that bit in Japan. Maybe it's just to illustrate that this wood is a global commodity more than anything.
Well, for me, that's not really familiar with the logging business. The only really valuable wood that I really know of is like ebony, and it's like really deep in the Amazon. Anyway, that's not important, but it's very expensive because it's very dense, it's heavy, it's rare. So I think in order to give context to somebody that's not familiar with wood, I think that was kind of important to let you know what it is that people are fighting and losing their minds over and going through all this. It's like we got just this one piece of it, just this one small thing to make this one little bitty violin. It's worth this amount of money. So let's take you back to why it's this valuable, and then you get the scale because you see this little bitty violin. Well.
Yeah.
Instrument like
No, I
this.
hear you.
And then you introduce and you see truckloads of this stuff.
Yeah.
And it's like, if it's that value, then who's running it, you know? And then we come to find out that there's levels to it, right? There's like a lower grade version of it, and then the forest that Pushpa found that has like the A+, A1 grade, and it's implied that he's the only one that knows where this particular forest is. So he controls all of that type of wealth. Like,
right.
That little bit.
Well, you said something very important there, which is like the film starts you out with like, it floors you with this information. This violin costs $850,000 US, right? Now you see all this wood, do the math, extrapolate, you know, it's like, you just start tallying that up. That's craziness. And so I guess the question is like, have they even reached the heights of what they can achieve with this wood? Because there's always a middleman. Like, even when you think you took out the middleman, there's another middleman after that. You know, there's a whole hierarchy of how this money's moving. It's interesting because you don't really think about the value of something that comes out of the earth like that. Like, we think of diamonds and nickel and silver, not nickel, but gold and all that stuff. Like, we think of that stuff, but we don't think necessarily of earthy things like wood being of value. You know, we take that for granted. You know, I was wondering about First Cop gave him a warning, like...
Yeah, like, there's a larger danger that you're not paying attention to.
Yeah.
And he was pretty much just giving him the warning. He gave him that pat on the back. Like, it was almost like fatherly advice.
Yeah.
He was like, you won this war, but there's a bigger battle that you're not even ready for. It's pretty much is what he kind of like insinuated to.
Right, at some point it's it's gonna happen. And so that was the thing. Like, Fahadh Faasil's character, the cop, you know, that's the thing that caught him off guard. He wasn't ready for it. I didn't think of it being another cop. I thought that what was gonna come after him later on unexpectedly was maybe the supply just dries out, you know, but you addressed it like it's so much forest, I guess. So it's just like when they were shoving all those logs into the water, I'm like, dang, like how is there still a forest forest left. Just all this, you know what I'm saying? It's like an exorbitant amount of wood. But maybe I'm just being simple-minded and not considering just how big forests are in general.
Yeah, I think that's a very good place to kind of emphasize is that what happens when the product runs out, right? That's, it's all about supply and demand. And he also says something that's really important too that could be a bigger problem, and that is there's always a middleman, right? So this whole thing was eliminating. He went from small-time chopper to nickel and diming selling it, to moving the trucks and selling it, to pushing everybody else. Like, he was constantly removing middlemen until he got to pretty much the docks. That's pretty much where his sphere of influence ends, is at the docks, and the man that runs the docks, that supplies it from the docks to wherever else in the world, he's like the next big step. So if I was thinking, if something was to go wrong, it's like, what if Pushpa gets to the point where he controls distribution? You know, he's on the bottom rung of the supply chain as far as like taking the raw product. But if you control distribution, and if you watch like a lot of gangster movies, especially Western gangster movies, it always comes down to distribution.
Well, distribution is everything. Even in the film world, distribution is everything. You can have a dope movie without a distributor, you got nothing.
Right, exactly. Yeah. So I would assume the next big business hurdle, as far as this is concerned, is to figure out what the distribution is. And then like you said, there's still snakes alive in the grass. We saw how gangster the sister-in-law is.
Yeah, yeah.
Like we saw, like her first introduction, I didn't like her because she was chewing whatever it was, and then she did the spit, and then she left the dribble of it on her chin, and then it got all on the car, and I was like, well, that's done on purpose. Yeah. Because it shows her indifference to whatever it is, and she's not scared to get dirty. I was like, that lady's gonna be a problem. Yeah. And then as we see later on, she picked up the same traits that her late husband had with flipping the razor blade in her mouth, and her brother, her brother.
Yeah.
Wounded the man of the house, the new man of the house.
Yeah.
And is sitting there like next to his bed while he's nursing back to health. Like she didn't get kicked out the house. That's a testament to her gangster. She's still alive. Yeah. And so is he. He's still licking and mending his wounds. The brother with the severed spine that said it was gonna take 6 months to live, 6 months to heal, he's still alive. And he's obviously bitter. And he said, I am going to finish my business with you, but I'm gonna be a man and not tell my brothers about it. But me and you, this isn't done. And Pushpa was like pretty much like, well, you a man, and holla at me when you heal up.
Yeah.
So there's lots of snakes left in the grass.
Yeah. This is interesting because there's some philosophy to take from this. Treat the secretary, treat the help with respect, because they will move up the chain at some point too. And when they do, you want to make sure they got your back. Right? Yeah. And Pushpa was going through all of this, creating enemies left and right. So he's got a lot of enemies waiting to take him out now, including the popos. I'm like, dang, this is tough. I don't know how you're going to get out of this one, dude. Without just like murdering people, I don't know how you're going to get out of this. Unless he earns the respect.
I hope he doesn't go to just murder without. Like, the thing that makes him a really cool character to me is that he's got principles. And we said it early in the beginning. Within the first 20 minutes of the film, you see, like, this is a man of principle.
He paid the boss back. He goes, this is what I for what I did, I'm being paid enough with this. You can give that to him and tell him to get a new, whatever, get some manners.
Right. I think that's what makes an endearing hero or protagonist, So I hope he doesn't violate that and just turns into Tony Montana. I don't think that would serve well for this kind of film.
Right.
That would serve well.
It's interesting for me to like kind of hear your experiences with this, because this is your second Allu Arjun film, back to back, basically. And so, like, how does this measure against your experience with Allu Vaikundu Purumalu? Like, seeing him in that film versus this one, because this one he's more like rougher on the edges and dirty, and like, whereas in the other one that we watched, it's all swag,
Yeah. I like this one. I like the rougher version.
Yeah.
It's a little bit more fun. He was even rough with the dance numbers in a sense. He just exudes a lot of masculinity, and it was just cool. Some of the subtle things that he did when he was proving his points with the beard wipe, but then again, like, there's still hints of the pretty boy element, like small little hints of it, but he carries it so well.
Yeah.
I think this was I don't know all of his work, but it seems it would be like a little bit harder of a stretch when you're somebody who's just naturally attractive to try to change that demeanor and be a little bit more gruff.
Yeah.
So as far as an acting standpoint, it seems like this would be a little bit more harder to pull off.
Yeah, this is a departure for him as far as I can tell, because he's made himself not look as pretty. you know.
Right.
But he still maintained that swag. He's still flipping bodies. It's just like, whatever, you can't come, you know, you can't touch this, you know. It was very much justified, I think, I feel like they justified it in both stories though, because in both instances he's coming from hard upbringings, you know, especially in this one. He comes from a mom who, you know, he's born out of wedlock, and she has no respect, and like he doesn't even have a surname, and so, you know, you already know he grew up like rough. And so that's going to condition you in a particular way. I'm just using that as my excuse for why he's so badass. And I appreciate his buddy who's there with him through his whole journey from rags to riches.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
I think
he's
cool.
like, I'm following that guy.
Yeah.
Like he quit his job when PUSHPA quit his job. He's like, I'm gonna quit too, because you're right. There is something about that,
right.
You know, about that person, and I need to be in that space on his rise. You know, he even told him, he was like, yo, you're about to be somebody, and I want to be around. And PUSHPA was like, so you just with me just because you know my rise can help benefit you? And dude was like, yeah. not gonna lie, you know. Maybe we could be friends on the way there, but anywhere you go, I'ma go.
Yeah, for sure. I really appreciated the direction in this film, like the way Sukumar, the way he moves the camera in this film is dope. I wasn't feeling it as much in the latter half of the story. It was more in the first half that I was feeling it, but I just want to express my fondness of it. Like, I just think that it was so cool how he was being really creative with how he was telling this story, and the lighting and everything like that. Like, there was one dope-ass shot when Allu Arjun was inside of a truck with a bunch of dudes, and it's like the shadows, the shaft of light and whatnot, and I was like, this is a dope shot, and you're like, yeah, you beat me to it. Because it just, you know, it was just the use of light is really nice. It's very photographic. Yeah. There's so many cool stills in this movie. If you were to just extract it and like use it on your computer as a wallpaper, it just like looks really nice. You know what I mean? The dance numbers were cool too. Like, there were some very interesting dance numbers in here, down to the creativeness with his slipper when like he was moving and then it fell off his foot and he had to go, you know, double back to get it back on his foot. And I was like, I wonder for a moment if that was deliberate, if that was an improvised move, but then they did it like 2 more times. I'm like, okay, that was part of the choreography.
There were a few scenes that really did not feel scripted, because just of the way the banner that it was going, because you can, you know, you watch enough of these, you can tell when somebody's like, you know, banging the script out like really well, and there's just good rapport from the script.
Yeah.
And then there's a difference in the energy that you can tell the other person has no idea what's coming next. And I thought that was some really good direction regarding the director being like, let's just take a chance and just see how natural this can get.
Yeah.
I only had like one small gripe, and this is another testament to what you were saying as well, to piggyback, because the cinematography was really good. The camera work and the motion was aggressive when it needed to be aggressive, and I loved it. My only gripe is actually the very beginning, because the CG, it looked really much like it was like a bad video game.
Yeah.
You know, it's my only gripe. It's my only gripe, and it's a small one because it set the tone, and then you kind of forget about it. Other than that, the other CG looked pretty decent. Everything from the fake logs that were falling off the waterfall, all of that was forgivable. When it was in the water going down the river, all of that was forgivable. Most of the CG was good. It was just that opening sequence.
I agree with you.
Looks like a weird video game.
I agree with you, and I think that that's just like the ambition of the director, and I wish that it's one of those things where you're trying to do something really, really cool, and I think that if they just dialed it back and they resorted to drawings, you know, like almost like paintings, that would have been really beautiful to look at, and it would have communicated it just as effectively, if not more, because you're not thinking about the CGI. The thing about it is, you know, films are more global now than they've ever been. And so Indian audiences know what an American film looks like. They know what CGI from an American film looks like. And so they're being exposed to that. And then to come to this, to see the CGI here, it's like, oh, well, now you're making concessions like the way I do. You know, the audience is making that concession as well, going, well, you know, but you don't even need to introduce that concession at all. You know, with a film that is otherwise very, very, very good, like you can just resort to drawings, like very, very epic drawings that are beautiful to look at, and you got the narrator anyway, so it'll all make sense and come together. I agree with you on that. I really liked Allu Arjun in this. I still wish that there was a way in his stories for there to be. I understand that tonally it's going for a particular thing, but I do wish that there was a way to introduce even more vulnerability with him, and more of a sense of, I'm wondering if he'll be able to get out of this. You know, because for the most part, I'm like, I'm never worried about this dude. I'm never worried he's not going to get out of this situation. I'm always confident he'll be all right. And the movie strikes that kind of tone the whole way through. There was that one instance where they bagged him up. He's on the floor and whatnot, but then I remember I saw the trailer and I was like, oh, he's gonna be run through the forest at some point. Like, this doesn't stop here.
Oh, yeah, see, I didn't know anything about that. I thought that was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Him running through the forest and doing the shoulder kung fu kind of thing and being blind at the same time. I was like, this is entertaining.
Yeah. No, the interesting thing is when I saw that in the trailer, I had guessed that it might have been borrowing from another film, and I think the movie's called I. It's a very simple title, but for a very epic movie. I think it might be in that movie. I could be wrong, but I think it's in that movie where you see the main actor, he's fighting with a hood on for like half the fight. He's like flipping around and head bashing and whatnot, taking hits and whatnot. And I was like, oh, maybe it's kind of borrowing from that and there'll be an action sequence around that. Because in the trailer, you didn't really get the full scope of what happens while he's got this hood on. All I saw was him running and then he falls into the tree. But I guess, I'm like, there's gotta be an action sequence around that. That's sort of they're teasing us with that. Then you get there and it's this epic dance of him like moving around and using the branches and whatnot, tossing people. That was pretty cool. It's a cartoon, but it was cool.
Yeah. It definitely took its moments where it's like, okay, suspend your disbelief and just go on this ride with us and just be entertained. And I respected it for what it was, because there was a couple of like Dragon Ball Z moments, especially like with some of the slides stopping and then taking off and all this. It felt very anime, but since they introduced it relatively early, and it's just fun, it's like I'm here for that.
Yeah. Well, I just want to say I agree with you. I think that comparing it to anime is the best possible comparison that one can make in this particular instance. It's like an anime in a lot of ways, because in anime you can kind of bend the rules a little bit with how characters' expressions are and whatnot, and the things that characters are able to do. You're like, well, it's a cartoon, and you can still feel emotion. You can still connect with the story. You can still do interesting things. Take for instance, Avatar: The Last Airbender. Some wild shit happens in there, but I still feel emotional on that journey. You know what I mean? So
yeah, absolutely. I was gonna ask you, what do you think was in that envelope that his mother took to her lover's home where the brothers live now, where Pushpa's brothers?
Just a wedding invitation. Just a wedding invitation. That's all it was.
It was the wedding invitation.
Yeah.
Okay. I wasn't 100% certain.
That's another ball left in the air that's being juggled in these stories. Is like that wasn't completed either. Like, I cannot wait to see Pushpa let those dudes have it. I don't know what's gonna happen there. I don't know if it's gonna be where he beats them up or if he aligns with them and they finally consider him family.
Which would you be more satisfied with as a viewer?
The primal part of me wants to see Pushpa like mess him up, but I think emotionally the more satisfying thing is if he's able to bridge that gap, where it's like where they finally recognize him and he gets his last name.
Yeah, I was gonna ask you too as well, like how, because you're way more culturally aware than I am regarding this. Like, how would he claim his name? Because I asked myself that question a couple times as we were watching it. I'm like, this is a very big obstacle for him, his name. How does that work? Like, do you just declare it, or does the brother give like the blessing for it?
Even though I'm more culturally connected to it, this is new to me. I didn't know that was I didn't know that was even a thing. Like, for me personally, like that just exists within the confines of the film. I have not ever encountered this like through my audience telling me anything. Maybe there'll be comments on this video that'll educate us, but yeah, I didn't even know that was a thing potentially. But it makes sense to me that you have this person who, it's kind of sending a message home as well with that whole element, because this dude, Pushpa's father, goes out and has this broad on the side, makes a baby, and then she gets all of the pain. He's cool. He's got his family, and she's the one with all the shame. There's no accountability directed at him whatsoever, even though he's out there making a baby. Like, no accountability, nothing directed at him, He gets this honorable funeral, and she's not even allowed to show up, even though she's got his seed, basically. Like, that's Pushpa. It's like, that's just crazy. Now, I can kind of see both sides in that they don't want to acknowledge this disgraceful thing, but there's no need to go out of your way to, like, take his gold chain and mess up their house and all that stuff. Like, that's mean. That's just so mean. On the day of his potential wedding, you come in and mess that up too. It's like, but why? It's so disrespectful. That is why I'd want to see their house burn down. But there's this interesting thing that they sort of planted in there, which is Pushpa has relatives in that household that want to know him, and they're just like kind of walled off by the men in the family, the older men in the family. Like the young girl, she's like, oh, that's uncle, and the I guess her dad or whatever is like, no, he's not family. You can't, no, don't even I'm like, that's just messed up.
I'm with you for wanting those just desserts. You do want some kind of justice.
Yeah.
Like, he got to at least get smacked in the mouth for some.
Yeah.
You know, I don't want him dead. His family, you don't want to kill Blood, but you do want there to be some, I don't know, so a little bit of payback, you know, just a little bit.
You know, the interesting thing is, you know, when you watch something like Lord of the Rings, right? When I watched Fellowship of the Ring, I could feel that this was just chapter 1 and that there was bigger chapters to come, right? It felt like it only went so far. You had Aragorn going up against that dude whose head he chopped off at the end of the fight. I forgot the name of that creature, but he was born out of the earth, basically. You know what I'm talking about, that villain? With this, it felt like they did a lot, and it like went to some extreme heights within the film, and I'm like, wait a second. I'm only now realizing in this moment, this film has way more to go, and the second one's gonna be even bigger. Like, that's kind of crazy. Like, how do you go even bigger from this? In a way that makes sense for this story, you know, because like with Transformers, you can easily imagine how that just gets even more crazy. With a story like this, I'm like, how do you take it further? Where do you go from here? It's got me extremely curious.
I'm sure the cinematography is going to do a good job of drawing us in within like that first 30, 45 minutes, because that's what they did with this. Like, they pulled no punch. That first 45 minutes like was crazy.
Yeah.
Like some of those drone sweeps and some of the stuff where they were running parallel with the trucks through the woods and all that, like they were flexing. They was like, we got to get them in good. And then like the next, you know, hour and a half was kind of like, you know, it was a good up and down roller coaster, whatever it is. So I'm assuming that the second one is going to do the same thing. And then the rule of trilogies are, you know, all bets are off in the second one.
Yeah.
You know, it's always bigger, faster, stronger, you know, so.
Yeah. I think the person I'm most afraid of is the razor blade lady. She's the one that scares me the most.
She's terrifying, man.
She's dark. Of all the characters, she seems the most cold. Anyway, looking forward to the second one. Y'all, thanks so much for hanging out. Hopefully you enjoyed that, and do let us know your feelings in the comments below. Hit that subscribe button if you haven't already, bell icon, all notifications, and vote this up. Please let YouTube know you enjoyed what you watched if you did. And if you're watching this on Patreon, thanks so much for supporting us here. Make sure to follow SYNTELL with the Intel on youtube.com/SYNTELL. Thank you again. I'm Jaby KOAY. This is...
Yo, it's your boy SYNTELL.
Peace out.